Hey guys, this is Sarah Partee, and I am doing my final oral exam for Educational Psychology 7120E for the spring of 2017. So in looking at the two objectives that I really kind of wanted to hone back in on and what I thought I was really taking away from the course, the first one was they're not numbered correctly. This is actually the second objective that was on the syllabus, but it's my objective one. Was to recognize the prejudice and oppression of oppressive institutional structures in education that marginalize gifted students from culturally diverse backgrounds, specifically race, class, gender, and language issues. And I think this one was the most important to me, and the reason it's my first one is that I work in a predominantly Black school, and the next closest population in my school is Hispanic. So we're dealing with a lot of minority students. We have very, very, very few white students. So I'm constantly being brought in on these issues that, frankly, as a white person, I really didn't recognize the seriousness of it, and chalk that up to white privilege. We don't have to deal with the same things a lot of the times, and so we just don't even recognize it. So this course really forced me to open my eyes to those kind of issues and to kind of take a step back from myself, my background, my culture, and just see what others were going through. Things that sometimes they weren't asked to, they were just brought in on, they were born into it, and just kind of figure out the differences that are happening so that I could be more aware. One of the big things that really stood out to me, and I watched the 60-minute video about Calhoun County with my husband so that it would be kind of a talking point. We're kind of weird like that. And it was just so, I don't want to say it was strange because I wasn't surprised by any means, but it was strange to see when the principal was talking about how he didn't find this was an issue, and the parents were talking about they didn't find this was an issue, to hear somebody say that, because for us, it's obvious, like, there's a problem here. There's no way statistically that your Black students could all fall into those lower end classes and your white students can all fall into your upper end classes. That is not going to happen. So for somebody to look at it and say, oh, it's based on, their intelligence and their scores and this and the other, and it just happened to end up this way, you just have to kind of look at it and be like, there's absolutely no way. So 60 Minutes video really kind of drove it home that some people don't recognize this, and some people need work on recognizing this, and they need that view change. And the only way they're going to get it is for other educated people to start working on recognizing it as well. And then the U46 case, and again, with the tracking, and in this case, what I was seeing as I was reading it is that sometimes the discrimination that's happening is not necessarily brought on with bad intentions. This case, to me, seemed like it was we're working to try to put students who are culturally similar together in order to provide them a better learning environment. And what it ended up being was discrimination. And I don't think everybody always has bad intentions going into something that ends up being discrimination. So again, just working on recognizing it when it's discrimination and when it's prejudice, and going from there. It's kind of like with an addict, recognizing your problem is the first step. So I felt like most of the course really honed back to this objective, because if we're not recognizing it, it doesn't matter what we're going to do to fix it. If we can't find it, you can't fix it. You can't fix a problem you don't know where it is. My second objective really dealt with something that I am trying very, very hard to kind of bring into my classroom this year, and that's parent involvement. So my second objective that I wanted to kind of talk about was develop a plan to use multicultural approaches to address home-school community relations that support gifted programs and empower students and their families. To me, I feel like one of the biggest support systems I have as a teacher are the parents of my students. I can't do what I do without the parents of my students. Be that them coming in and helping out one day, be it if I have some discipline issues, or be it if I'm just really struggling to reach a kid and motivate them. The first person I'm going to reach out to is the parent. Do you know of a way to motivate your child that I can use because the way I'm using is not working? And I have found that the more involved parents are, the better grades these kids have, the more involved they are, the higher effort, the higher motivation. And I was the same way when I was in high school. My parents were very involved in the school through my sister and I doing a lot of sports, doing a lot of clubs, things like that. And it was just different. And you're treated differently as a student when teachers know that your parents are involved. So it's something that I'm really striving to do in my classes. And I know for this one specifically, it's to ensure that parents are advocating for their kids, gifted program specific, but it's really an issue overall. And so the two articles that we talked about over the semester that really honed back to this objective were the Grantham article that talked about parent advocacy, and I love that it gave separate steps, because I feel like when you, as a math teacher, I'm all about steps, and I'm all about do this and then do this and then do this, and it kind of just helps to build, one, the confidence in a certain topic or a certain concept, and two, it just really gives that path that people can start to get comfortable if they know absolutely nothing. I feel like a lot of problems with our parents, and especially things like discrimination, they feel they don't know enough. They want to advocate for their child. And I've had some parents come up and they say, I know something's wrong, but I don't know what it is, or I don't know who to go to, or things like that. You want to advocate for your child. No parent wants to see their child upset, discriminated against, unfairly treated, anything like that. They want to advocate. It's just about how. So I thought the Grantham article talking about the 4 stages of parental advocacy was really, really something that I think would be fantastic to share with parents. If you have a parent coming up saying they just don't feel that their child's being treated right, whether they think it's due to racial issues or not, I feel like this is a really, really fantastic article that you might want to show them, just to help them kind of step through and learn how to be an advocate for their student. And then the Barton et al. About how to get parents involved. So I pulled quotes from both of these articles. I already talked about the Grantham article, so I'm not going to read that quote, but I'll read the quote from the second article. At the heart of this project was a desire by all of the participants to break down the barriers between home and school that often permeate our work to urban education. Yet a part of breaking down these barriers was understanding what barriers were and how they were sustained through the normative practices of schooling and of research. I'm really big with my students. For example, we had open house today, and I had parents and students coming in. He's not really a math person, and he's never been good at math, and he struggles a lot, and it's always, this is a mental barrier for you. And if we can identify the mental barrier and where you're struggling, whether it's just your fixed mindset, whether it's your lack of foundation, if we can identify these barriers, then we can figure out how to work through them. And it's the same type of idea. When parents are able to get involved in the schooling, it gives kind of almost an outside perspective to administrative teams and school boards of what's going on and where the kids are struggling, because nobody knows a child better than their parent. I spend probably as much time with some of my students as a coach and a teacher that their parents do, but their parents have known them for 17, 18 years, and I've known them for 1 or 2. So there's no greater support and greater resource for you as a teacher than the parent of your child. So having them brought in, having them involved in the school, they see things from a different perspective, and they're able to sometimes bring things up that maybe we're not seeing. Sometimes we're blinded to these things. And so having a parent come in and be involved in the school is going to help us see the barriers where they're happening. Maybe it's a cultural barrier that the parent would know about that we wouldn't. Maybe it's a language barrier that, some of us are very aware of language barriers, but maybe we don't quite know. Maybe the parent says, hey, they're really good at English if you do this, or something of that nature. Bringing parents in because they understand and they're an outside perspective is going to help us understand where our schooling needs to change, because it's obvious it needs to. So my future plans after this class. Again, I've already said that I work in a high minority population school. So this is something that I really feel that I can bring back into my school. And specifically, my district attracts a lot of students, and a lot of students that would qualify for ESOL and that have some kind of a language barrier. So I feel like one of the things, and probably one of the most important things that I've come away from this class with, is that I need to be more aware and more cognizant of these possible discriminations that might be happening, be them intentional or not. Because again, if we can't identify, if we don't know there's a problem, we can't fix it. So just kind of being, as the kids say, woke to these kind of issues is a first step. So just being aware, going into my to the rest of my career, being aware of these issues and looking for them a little bit more so that I can help to fix them. And the second thing that I have as future plans is that sharing really is caring when it comes to stuff like this. This is beneficial information for everybody, whether, I know us specifically, we're looking at gifted students, but this is beneficial outside of the gifted realm as well. I mean, yes, there's discrimination within the identification process or the tracking processes or things like that, but it's outside as well. And so sharing this information not only with my fellow teachers, which is my specific plan. I act as a curriculum lead for the pre-calculus team at my school. And so kind of starting there and then working it out into our math department, working it out into, we're also an academy school, so I would work it out into my academy as well, and work it into going full school. And then once it's full school, bringing in other teachers who work at high minority schools and work with a lot of multicultural students and exposing teachers to this. Again, I'm going to say it, I'm going to sound like a broken record. Unless we know that something's wrong and unless we know that the information out there, that there is information out there to fix it and put those two together, this is never going to change. So it's about, again, being woke to these types of problems, knowing where to get the information. We have the information now after this class, and we are the ones that can kind of spread it out and work to fix this problem. Kind of leading into my networking collaboration. My district is fabulous that they have instructional specialists for us. We've got one specifically for math. We do have one for gifted education. We've got one, I believe, for ESOL. So working with these are people who have been in education for years, been in the classroom, have fantastic strategies. So working with them specifically to develop professional development opportunities for teachers, to understand that there are some issues, there are some equity issues. And I think we all, when we think of equity issues, we think of race right off the bat. But helping people to understand that it's more than that. And then professional development to allow them the opportunity to get some of our information that we've come out of this class with and some of the articles and things like that to help see how we can fix it. And then, of course, my specific principal, she knows my demographics that I work with. She knows our kids. And so I feel like there's no better person to help start this on a school-wide basis and help to work it out into other schools. Revamping the teaching styles first within my classroom, then within my department, then within my academy, and then within my school. And I think she's one of the best people to go to about this, and her being a minority herself, she's very good about opening people's eyes to issues maybe you haven't thought about before. So I think she'd be a fabulous person to come in and help develop things, help other teachers with strategies to work with multicultural students and parents. And that is it, guys. I've had a great semester with you, and I hope that you have all the best and you finish your programs as high as we are now. It's fantastic. Thanks, guys.